Have you ever been to the most magical place on Earth? No, I'm not talking about that place. I'm talking, of course, about Park Planet, the magical island in the sky that has rides, attractions, characters, blood, guts, giant security robots that'll kill you, a post-apocalyptic wasteland, and a slew of deep, dark secrets that nobody truly understands.
I have to fix again.
2 weeks ago, Glitch Productions released the pilot for Knights of Guinevere, a 2D animated show created by Dana Terrace, John Bailey Owen, Zach Marcus, and the rest of the Glitch team. This show is wild, and it manages to be both a dark takedown of the Disney Corporation and an interesting character-driven thriller about a post-apocalyptic but highly themed wasteland. There are tons of details, secrets, and interesting quirks that are worth discussing. What happened to Olivia? What is it that Orville Park did? Why is Frankie hallucinating? What exactly is Blue Lung? And where is Knights of Guinevere really going? My name is Spookydood. Make sure to like and subscribe, as I'm specifically trying to branch out into new kinds of content like this, so if you enjoy, I would really appreciate that subscribe. Now let's discuss. Set in a post-apocalyptic world where all life is centered around the Disney-esque Park Planet, Knights of Guinevere follows Frankie, who dreams of being an engineer working for Park Planet, but is currently stuck salvaging for scrap far below the park. And Andy, an ex-engineer who used to work for Park Planet, operating on animatronics before being fired. After Frankie discovers a discarded Guinevere android, a strange model that nobody seems to recognize, she and Andy team up to try and repair it, drawing the ire of Sparky, Frankie's boss, and the current owner of Park Planet, Olivia Park. Olivia sends Sir Arthur, a massive security robot, after Frankie and Andy, but Guinevere activates at the last minute, somehow managing to absolutely demolish Sir Arthur. The episode ends with the reparation of the Guinevere android. Based solely on the general plot of the episode, we can pretty much figure what's going to happen next. While Frankie and Andy did make a deal with Sparky to sell the robot after repairing it, it's highly likely that they'll decide to stay with Guinevere instead, searching for a solution to a much larger problem. This actually comes from a quote by Dana Terrace herself, as she said,
"It's about a lot of people who are just trying to make their lives better and getting caught up in a giant conspiracy trying to do so."
A conspiracy seems to imply that Guinevere will reveal much larger secrets about the Park family, likely causing Frankie and Andy to get sucked into a much larger mission than make money. Because of this, Sparky and his crew will most likely become antagonistic forces working against them, and that's on top of Olivia Park, who has a seemingly infinite amount of android servants and security measures to try and stop them. But what can we tell about the deeper story based on what the episode has shown us? Well, first off, I don't think we can go too deep without looking at the history of the Park family. The pilot begins with a monologue, revealing that a very long time ago, a princess was locked in a tall tower and locked away by complicated machines that ran on blood and fear. The princess spent her days playing games, pretending she wasn't scared. However, she needed to be rescued. We assume that this is in reference to Olivia. After all, we see her locked in this room, isolated inside Park Planet. Calling her a princess makes sense too, as her father, Orville Park, is basically the king of Park Planet. However, it's very quickly revealed that Olivia is not the princess in need of saving. Orville tells Olivia he hopes this gift, the gift of Park Planet, will make up for something bad that happened. He tells her that her future can be as bright as all of this, and to let her past fade away. The princess in need of saving is actually Princess Guinevere. Olivia grabs onto what looks like intestines and pulls her forward, yanking her as hard as she can. Guinevere snaps, runs forward, and jumps off the balcony. A montage follows, revealing the future of Park Planet. Guinevere becomes an ultra-popular mascot character, as if the mass appeal and general marketability of Mickey Mouse fuse with the aesthetics and popularity of the Disney princesses. There are movies, toys, food items, and eventually Park Planet becomes, well, practically a governmental force. In this show's world, we see foot soldiers on the ground layer below the park who are clearly park employees, or as they call them here, crownies. And as for Olivia, well, during the story we see that she's old and bedridden. How old? Well, at the moment there's really no way to say, but I will mention that at the beginning of the episode, it does establish that Olivia being shown the park was a very, very long time ago. For all we know, that could be much longer than the average lifespan. There's no way to know for certain that Olivia isn't much older than the average human being. But hey, that's just complete speculation. For now. So what actually happened to the parks? I think it's a fair assumption to say that whatever tragic thing happened to the Park family, it happened to Olivia's mother. We can't quite see what Olivia's mother looks like from the portrait above her bed, but we can see that she has blonde hair. But Olivia does not. So why does Olivia have blonde hair in the future? Well, this is only a suggestion, but maybe Olivia dyed her hair to make herself look more like her mother. Whatever happened with her mother seems to have greatly traumatized her. So let's get to the obvious theory and just get it out of the way first. Orville tells Olivia he hopes that the gift of Park Planet itself will make up for something. Did Orville Park kill Olivia's mother? This does seem, like the obvious answer, right? The easy answer, the answer that most indie horror type stories would probably go with. And, it's probably a theory that lots of theorizers are going to pick up on very quickly. Look, an evil businessman in a purple suit who makes animatronics and cares for his daughter in twisted, abusive ways wouldn't exactly be a first. And there's actually some evidence in the real world to back this idea up. Maybe Orville Park didn't kill his wife maliciously, maybe it was an accident. Park Planet and the Park Company is based on Walt Disney World and the Disney Company. Orville, obviously, is based on Walt Disney himself, to an extent. While Walt Disney didn't kill anyone, there was a truly sad and tragic incident that occurred in his life that the show could be drawing inspiration from. Walt and his brother Roy, following the success of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, bought their parents a home in California in 1938. After moving down, Walt's mother, Flora Disney, would die due to carbon monoxide poisoning caused by a faulty heating system. Walt felt responsible for the tragic accident, blaming himself. It caused him extreme guilt over the years, and he'd never talk about it. There's even an urban legend that this event is the reason that so many Disney classics feature the death of the main character's mother. Now, this has been debated over time and is most likely not true, but Knights of Guinevere does place lots of emphasis on the idea of mothers. So is it possible that this is, sort of evidence to back this up? I don't want to use a real-life tragedy as evidence ever. I really don't think that anybody would say, ooh, there's a good story beat. Like, that's tragic. That's not a story thing. But I do want to bring it up because I know that some people will, go so far as to link real life events with this show, and if I don't mention it, somebody's going to bring it up, right? If I don't mention it, somebody will say, well, there actually is some evidence in the real world, so I'm bringing it up. I don't think it's evidence. I don't think that anybody would use that as inspiration. I think that that's kind of a dark thing to do. But I do want to bring it up just to mention it. So, did Orville Park kill his wife either on purpose or by accident? Well, not quite. I don't really believe it. It's definitely a possibility, and like I said, you could argue that the real-life tragedy does add some believability to the idea, like staying close to the source material or what it's meant to be, inspired from, but I really don't think so. And I think there's something more important about the loss of Mrs. Park. This might come out of left field, but there's no real way to sidestep this any longer. I think the big idea behind Olivia Park is that her mother was abusive. Now, I know this may sound crazy, and I'd be completely willing to take the L on this one, right? But hear me out. We know very little about these characters. All we have to go off of is a tiny bit of screen time, so admittedly, it wouldn't take much to break this idea down. And again, I'd be totally willing to hear anybody out if they have alternative opinions. But with what we have right now, I actually think it's likely, or possible at the very least. I believe that Olivia was seriously traumatized by whatever happened to her mother, and I believe that after her mother's death, she took on the role her mother played, mirroring her in ways. The first sign of this is the hair dyeing. She made her hair blonde, like her mother. In general, her character is made out to be somewhat motherly. Orville tells her that one day everyone at the park will be under her watchful eye. The most important detail, though, is her strange connection to Guinevere. You see, one thing that's bothered me so much is why Olivia repeatedly damaged Guinevere, repairing her over and over. It's sort of a background detail and not too noticeable on the first watch, but the intro wasn't the only time Gwen was badly hurt. We see in the montage that Guinevere was torn apart brutally and repaired multiple times. And it's the same model, the same android, the one that Frankie reveals is not an animatronic for the park. This is Olivia's personal Guinevere, so why does she treat it so harshly? Does she hate this thing? No, she doesn't actually. She loves it. When she's older, we see that she even kind of treats it like a daughter. In the scene where her bedside medical androids reveal to her that Guinevere has escaped, Olivia says, "My poor dear Guinevere, she must be so confused and lost." She screams, even begs for the androids to bring her back, saying she has to fix her. Again. This is an obsession. Her desire to fix Guinevere isn't a genuine desire to repair something that has been broken. Over and over, she's doing severe damage to Guinevere, fixing her over and over and over. But the way she talks about her is made out to be loving and motherly, saying, "My poor dear Guinevere," paints a picture of a mother who is worried for the safety of her daughter. Now, there is no hard evidence to support this, but I believe that all of these actions, the dyeing of the hair, the overall personality, the abusive, violent treatment towards Guinevere, despite her saying that she loves her and cares for her, are all possibly mirrored from her own mother and the way she treated Olivia. Let's look back at that first scene one more time, when Orville Park tells Olivia that he's giving her the park. Looking at it with this reading, Orville comes across quite differently, actually. Your future can be as bright and beautiful as all this. Embrace it. Let your past fade away. You're here now. This can easily come across as harsh, violent, maybe even threatening or uncaring, if you believe that Orville was responsible for his wife's death. But reading it in a different way, as if Orville knew about the way that Mrs. Park treated Olivia, as if he knew what was going on and felt bad for her, things feel different. Orville comes across here like an actual good guy, a caring father who wants his daughter to embrace the future and let go of the horrible, tragic past she had. Why would he be saying this to her, to let your past fade away, if all that happened was her mother's death? Yes, that's still a tragic and horrible event, but I don't believe that he would be telling her to let it fade away. Keep her in your memories? Maybe. Don't forget about her but move on? Okay, I guess I could see that. But let your past fade away. You're here now? It sounds like someone possibly trying to rescue his daughter from something that was happening to her, taking her somewhere better. It actually kind of makes me wonder. The opening scene that talks about a princess trapped in a tower locked away by complicated machines running on blood and fear. We're meant to think it's about Olivia, but it's revealed it is actually about Guinevere. But what if there's another layer here? What if Olivia's current state, bedridden, kept alive by machinery, is also parallel to her mother? What if the opening monologue truly was about Olivia, when she was younger and her mother was bedridden? Olivia was locked away by machinery that ran on blood and fear, aka hospital bedside machinery. Now, I'll admit I'm going off the deep end here. It's a little speculative, admittedly, but it's just worth mentioning. So, okay, that's a little far. A lot of you are probably going to be saying that that's too much for you, so I will say there is another reading of this. I'm going super deep here with speculation and theorizing, and the result is obviously not too believable unless you're really into that type of theorizing. Some people are not, and admittedly, there is a much simpler answer to all of this. Orville Park's wife and Olivia's mother tragically passed. In an attempt to make up for this horrible tragedy, which deeply scarred Olivia, Orville built the park, an escape from reality. Olivia then began abusing the Guinevere android, violently breaking her and hurting her, only to repair her in a vain attempt to feel like she fixed her mother. That obsession with fixing Guinevere came from her trauma with not being able to heal her mother. Now, this is a much simpler reading, and frankly, I kinda prefer the other one because it doesn't take into account the hair-changing colors or her strange motherly nature towards Guinevere, but it's up to you to decide which one you believe. I want to take a quick pause here and say that I don't personally... I get very cautious when it comes to writing something like abuse or you know, something serious that's meant to be about a real-world issue in any of these theories, because it's not a fun thing to theorize about, you know? I want to theorize about, like, crazy fun stuff, like Woody theory, but not, is this person abusive? That's not fun. That's not game theory. But I do think that when I pick up on a story like that, and I think, hey, this might be possible, I think this might be about abuse in some way, I'm going to talk about it, right? I'm going to talk about it, I'm going to bring it up, and so I don't want any of you guys to think that I'm doing this for the sake of the entertainment, because if I was doing it for the sake of the entertainment, I'd say something crazy, like all the characters are robots, which obviously I'm not going to say, right? No, but for real, I do genuinely think that there could be a storyline going on here about abuse, and that the actions that Olivia is taking against Guinevere is meant to parallel the way that her mother treated her, sort of like her own, you know, messed up understanding of it, you know, the way she breaks her but still loves her and wants to repair her. She's trying to accept the way her mother treated her. Again, we don't know, because we don't have the flashback episode yet, so we're not going to be able to go anywhere with that, but it's just a thought that I've been having. So, taking this into account, where does this all leave us? Well, that's obviously just one branch of the story. Yes, the relationship between Olivia Park and the main Guinevere is going to be a very important plot thread, but there's a lot more to this story. What is the biggest problem in the almost cyberpunk-esque world of Knights of Guinevere? Well, it's Park Planet itself. Not just because it's practically a controlling force over the world below, not just because it's generating loads of pollution, but because of a certain condition that is all over the pilot. Blue lung. We see in the intro that blue lung is on the rise. Park Planet sells blue lung insurance and asks to call a specific number if there's any sighting of the disease. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that all of the androids in Park Planet are powered by some kind of blue substance that's not quite blood. The overpowering color of Park Planet is blue. In the factories we see that blue smoke is rising up into the sky. The man that screams at Andy coughs up blue fluids. It's gotten so bad that at least one baby has been born blue. Blue lung is obviously a disease born from whatever materials Park Planet uses to create its characters. I think it's safe to say that blue lung is going to be a major concern as the series goes on, especially considering either Sparky or Andy, most likely Andy considering she works at Park Planet, had blue fluids in their spit when they shook hands, implying they might have blue lung. But what exactly is the blue substance that is used to create the androids and attractions at Park Planet? Well, this brings us to our final topic of discussion. It may seem like the intro for the show confirmed that the robots are somehow half human or partially human. After all, Olivia tugged on the entrails of a Guinevere droid that we can clearly see, right? Well, not quite. See, another large story thread here has to do with hallucinations and seeing things in a different light. Two characters have been shown to see things incorrectly at times, Guinevere and Frankie. That intro scene is actually not what happened. As you can see, Olivia pulls on the intestines. However, after Gwen falls, it's clearly shown that she was never holding intestines or organic matter whatsoever. She was holding a cord. In the shot of Guinevere being built, you can see clearly that she isn't made of organic matter. She's made of metallic parts. Yes, that blue substance is still clearly shown, but it's not quite the disgusting type of gore that many thought it was. We can double down with this thought process here in this shot, which clearly shows a small endoskeleton-like body that does not feature any organs. And obviously, after Frankie finds the Guinevere, it's clear throughout the rest of the episode that she's just a robot, no gore in sight. So I think it's safe to suggest that in the beginning scene, Guinevere was hallucinating her organs. We can actually see there is a bit of a precedent set. In the ending, once she's repaired, Gwen sees Frankie and Andy as children, set against a bright sky with a rainbow. What's going on here? Well, she's obviously hallucinating. We learn in the beginning that all Guinevere bots share the same magic, so no matter which one you meet, they remember you.
Every one of them draws on the same magic to remember everything. So wherever your journey leads in the park, every princess you meet will recall the same cherished memories of you.
I think it's safe to say that this is a sort of artificial intelligence system, not actual magic. And I think it's also safe to say that that's what's happening here. In the ending. Some sort of artificial intelligence sensory override, or a kind of filter that makes you see things that aren't there, especially considering that we see this scene from Gwen's perspective, and the second her screen says rebooting, that's when everything changes. Okay, simple, right? Well, not quite, because there's another character who has been seeing things. Frankie. Multiple times throughout the episode, Frankie hallucinates characters and things that aren't there. Towards the end of the episode, after being knocked out running away from Sir Arthur, Frankie sees Guinevere in a sort of space dome area. She sees her as an actual princess. This is shown explicitly, though, to be a hallucination, something that's not actually there. Knowing this, we can suggest that in the beginning of the episode, when Frankie and Andy, both kids, run into Guinevere looking just like this in the scene, that is also a hallucination. That's not exactly what happened. It was a distorted view of what actually happened there. Especially considering Guinevere's glitchy finger that Frankie fixes. There is one more incident in which this happens. Frankie is watching an ad for Park Place, and she sees her toy characters come to life, looking like holograms. The characters encourage Frankie to rescue Gwen. So what's up with this? Well, and I know this is my wildest reach in this entire video, but I think this is a much bigger deal than most people think. All of these hallucinations share one thing in common. Calling them hallucinations as if they're entirely created in Frankie's head is actually false. These are all digital alterations of reality. In the same way that Guinevere's AI circuits make her see things differently, Frankie is having the same thing happen to her. The beginning shows that Guinevere's finger was glitching, which doesn't make sense for a straightforward hallucination. The characters talking to Frankie were digital. What if Frankie isn't imagining things, but instead, she either had a chip implanted that makes her susceptible to the same AI alteration Guinevere is, or she is some sort of android? I know, didn't I just say I wasn't going to say the characters were all robots? That sounds so stupid. I get it. I'm not suggesting that, so literally. We don't know the mechanics of how any of this works yet, so it's difficult to put into words exactly what I'm thinking. But We know that all the Guineveres tap into the same quote-unquote magic, right? And we know that Frankie hallucinates whenever Guinevere's around, right? And we know that the one time she hallucinated when not near Gwen, she was being told by her imaginary characters to go and rescue the princess. Not only that, but what ad was she imagining seeing that wasn't actually there on her screen? The one that spoke all about how the Guineveres are hooked up to the same magic. I think that even if she's not a robot, which again isn't actually... That's so ridiculous, right? That's ridiculous without the proper setup. Frankie may have been hooked up to that magic too, in some way. Her hallucinations are digitally caused. And I mean, it kind of makes sense, right? She's the one who has a love for Park Planet and its characters. Even knowing how bad the place is for the environment, that memory of meeting Gwen for the first time stuck with her. It's no wonder she sees the princess and the park through rose-colored glasses. Not just in a metaphorical sense, but in a literal sense with these hallucinations. This, in my opinion, could be a great plot device if used correctly. Well, that's sort of where we're at right now. The two big swings I took here are Olivia's relationship with Guinevere is a twisted mirror of the abuse she suffered at the hands of her mother, and Frankie has some kind of digital alteration that allows her to see things, and it's possibly being influenced by Guinevere herself. I also think that Blue Lung is going to be a major focus of the show, but I think everybody else already thinks that at this point. Well, that just about does it for today's theory. Man, I really like Knights of Guinevere. I hate to be that guy, especially after this whole video, but I'm actually sort of one of those Disney fans that loves the parks to a crazy degree. I know. I'm not saying I think everyone should support the Disney company or anything like that. You know, there is all kinds of stuff going on and the AI issues, so I'm completely understanding. But I do have so many meaningful childhood memories at those parks, so sometimes I do see the things on the internet and it's like, man, it's difficult because as much as I completely agree with, the stances against Disney, I have those memories and it makes me feel bad sometimes. And so this show is kind of like capturing that because, it's sort of like separating the characters in the parks itself. And it's like, you see a character like Frankie who loves Guinevere, Princess Guinevere, and has that memory, but she's still living in this world that is so horribly, destroyed by Park Planet. And it's like, this is a great story. Like, they're onto something here, I guess is all I'm really saying here. I totally dig the vibes of the show. There is a lot more to talk about in the future. The links to Arthurian myth, which, is that Arthurian or Arthurian? Which opens a huge other can of worms, trying to identify exactly what Andy's goals are, as I think she's a bit of an understated character who actually has just as much going on as Frankie, and, more. There's also the question of why Sir Arthur's blood seemed to be red, or maybe was it just, colors? I don't know. That's an interesting discussion. There's lots of interesting discussions to have. But the show hasn't been greenlit yet. The thing is, there's no guarantee that Knights of Guinevere will receive enough funding or be greenlit, so if you want the show to be greenlit, Glitch is encouraging you to go to the site and buy Knights of Guinevere merch. If you enjoyed this theory and want me to keep making non-Deltarune content like this, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. My name is Spookydood, and thank you so much for watching. Oh, shoot, hold on, wait a minute, I'm just remembering I should link back previous videos. If you like this video and you like Glitch Productions, I made an amazing digital circus theory that you should really go watch. So do that. Now.